could we realistically, Simon, see two managers lift the respective trophies and then depart? What I'm talking about is this. 2 cup finals across the next week. The FA Cup and the Europa League final, of course, in Bilbao, Spain. How intrinsically linked might the two become? Now, you have been of the view, correct me if I'm wrong, that even if Ange Postecoglou wins Europa League, it's unlikely that would be enough to save his job at Tottenham. And then I noticed this morning in your column in the Mail, you make the case for his replacement potentially being at Crystal Palace. In your column, Simon, you say, and you know what you said, Oliver Glasner has a proven track record at Eintracht Frankfurt and has worked the Oracle at Crystal Palace this season. His history suggests he has an ego which will push people hard, players and ownership alike. And then you go on to say, I don't want to be accused by fellow Palace fans of touting our manager for other jobs on the eve of a big game where they could lift the first major trophy in their history. But it's in the interest of objectivity, take note, Martin Keown, that wasn't lost on me. It would be remiss of me not to mention him as a potential successor to Postecoglou.
Yeah.
So Glasner is the man in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, the article is really more about the challenges for Tottenham Hotspur and where Ange Postecoglou is in the great scheme of things. And then in order to suggest, I don't like ever suggesting someone to lose their job, but the question that was put to me was, what do you think of where Tottenham are? What do you think the likely outcome of it's going to be? And of course, I can't foresee what Daniel will want to do. All I can do is look at the reality of where they are. You know, this struggle to avoid finishing one place above the relegation zone, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. And the idea that you get one moment of glory as a blueprint for allowing someone to continue is cut out of the Ten Hag playbook. And we know how that's worked out because they made a decision to keep him and then they changed their minds. Now, whether that's worked out with Ruben Amorim, that's a different discussion. So what I was doing, and I'm certainly not touting Oliver Glasner out of Crystal Palace, I'm saying if I were Tottenham Hotspur and I were looking at managers that were available, if I were deciding that Ange Postecoglou, thank you, you've won the trophy for us, you've got that monkey off our back. I'm grateful for one thing. I'm grateful for the fact that you've rid me of that particular problem, but you have produced a stinker of a Premier League season, and I'm not entirely sure that you've given me more answers. You provided me with more questions and answers.
I think that's fair. I mean, does FA Cup success make it easier or harder for Palace to retain Glasner?
Well, I think that he will be ambitious, and that doesn't mean his ambitions can't be fulfilled by Crystal Palace. It means that he will be pushing, like I said, he'll be pushing for outcomes that enable Crystal Palace to be in an upward direction. You win an FA Cup, which they're perfectly capable of winning, by the way. This is not a great Man City side. They're not frightened of them, and they can go at them and give them a hard game. You would think that the experiences of Man City that have been there before, know what that looks like, know what that pressure feels like on the day, might give them the outcome. But this is a Palace side that can give anybody problems. And in this game, with Mateta on form, Eze on form, other players in really good nick, there's no reason why they won't give Man City a bloody torrid time and potentially win this FA Cup.
And the trophy, not only the prize, Simon, Europe also the prize.
Sure. And then it opens the question of what was the pathway? What was said to Glasner when he came in? What were the blueprint that he was brought in to achieve? What will he now be asking? Because I know what managers are like. The moment their currency goes up, so there's their expectations. And rightly so. They should push. They should push to a point and be respectful of the point when that point's been reached. But they should be pushing. So then it becomes about whether Palace can fulfil his ambitions, not because he's bigger than Crystal Palace, not because he's entitled to do anything, but because he's a football manager of ambition. If you've got a football manager with no ambition, then you've got a football club that's not progressing. Now, it might be then that Palace have shown no track records in the past of really going deep economically. And there's lots of reasons for that, and I can dig into my bag of vitriol if I want and tell you the reasons why Parish won't do it, or I can look at the reality of the fact that they haven't had the financial resources around them, besides the Americans that really want to dip in and give them more money.
I was going to say that. Can they be ambitious necessarily, Simon, without European football money? If they don't win the FA Cup, can they still be majorly ambitious?
Well, they can be ambitious as long as PSR permits them to be so, and I don't think there's any PSR requirements. Then it becomes about cash. How much cash have they got? And where does that cash come from to be able to kick on? And what you want to see is Palace not being under jeopardy of losing Eze, because Eze's flying right now. And Elise was plucked out last year. Anderson was plucked out.
Yeah.
They try to get hold of Gehi. They'll come again for him. It becomes about not just what you can keep, right? It's about what you can buy and improve. Because if they are to win the FA Cup, and they've got a good chance to do it, and they're to have a respectable Premier League season, this man looks upward and onwards. And to do that, you're going to be needing to look at 80, 90, 100 million pound transfer funds. And if Palace can't provide that, then it becomes about what the opportunity for someone else comes along and goes, well, actually, we're an ambitious club. We shouldn't be finishing in 17 in the Premier League. We've got a 62,000 all-seater stadium. This is one of the best in the world. We've got upward-forward motivations, i.e. Tottenham. And I'm certainly not touting Palace's manager, because that would be ridiculous. I'm a Palace fan. I'm writing a balanced article and saying this is what I would do if I was in their shoes. I would look at someone like Glasner. I would also look at the other kid over in Bournemouth, because I think he's a very capable, very capable operator.
Yeah. Would Daniel necessarily want a hugely ambitious Oliver Glasner?
Of course he would. Because if you haven't got ambition, you've got a good manager. I mean, stylistically, there's a lot made of Ange Postecoglou, and I like him. I want him to be successful. But I don't look at this season and think to myself, that's a blueprint.
Yeah, but he's had super demanding and ambitious before in Conte.
Yeah, but it's super demanding.
In Mourinho.
No, there was that. Mourinho wasn't as big a problem as Conte was. Conte was a self-absorbed, destructive, negative influence on that football club.
Mourinho was a problem. He signed him days before a cup final.
Sure, he was. But in recent time, Mourinho was one thing. We're talking about in the last 18 months now, where Conte's been in there last 4 years. Mourinho's 5 years ago now. It's half a decade ago. So let's move on past Mourinho and look at the fact that Conte was the wrong appointment because he was so destructive and self-absorbed. Stylistically, Nuno Espirito Santo was the wrong fit for Tottenham Hotspur. And Ange Postecoglou looked like he was. And that's why first impressions are so important. I write it in the article. Because the first impressions of Ange Postecoglou have carried him for a long period of time. But from what I understand, there's only one person more unpopular than Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham amongst certain sections of the fan base, and that's Daniel. And it's going to be an irony that Daniel might be the person that takes him out. They may not. But looking at the Postecoglou conundrum, he may well be able to stick two fingers up and say, I told you on the way out that I win trophies on my second season. But what he hasn't proven is that Tottenham, you cannot, I don't care about Man United in this conversation, I'm talking about Tottenham. You cannot finish one place off the relegation zone and suggest that you've got any mitigation for that. And every piece of revenue that you may have achieved from getting into the European Cup, the Champions League, has been given away in merit payments. So economically, Tottenham are probably 10 or 15 million pound better off.
Yeah.
In the great scheme of things, it's 3% of their turnover.
Interesting talking about Palace and their chances. And the chances are extremely real against Manchester City. This is Glasner on that.
Most of the stuff we already started to prepare. We will watch a few Man City clips as well, and then it will be Wednesday. Will be we start with the preparation for Man City, but we can't do something different, and it also makes no sense. So it's showing what we can, who we are on our best level. This is how we will enter the final, and then let's see it. And it's football, and everything can happen. But I think the worst thing that we could do is now changing many things, because we can't teach the players something different in 4 days. This would just making them dizzy. So business as usual.
Third time lucky. Third FA Cup final, 1990, 2016, 2025. Third time lucky.
Third time lucky. You never know. I was wondering if there'd be even money getting into this. Palace are 72 to win it. City are 10-7 on.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to ask you this because your dad played for them. You own the club. Will it be a special day for you if they win it?
Yes and no. I mean, obviously, I had 10 years of owning the football club, and grew up with my father that supported them, his father that supported them. So living 200 yards away from the ground, climbing into that stadium, as I write about in the article, as a kid, owning it, wanting to own it because it was something that I felt was something that I wanted to do. But, the end of my time at Palace wasn't fun for me. I didn't enjoy it. The outcome wasn't something I enjoyed. The owners that are there, I don't respect or appreciate. I respect their achievements because they've done wonderfully well. They've done better than me. They've done better than Ron Nodes that had it for 23 years, and they certainly did better than Mark Goldberg, who had it for 15 minutes. So I respect their achievements. But it took away a lot of my my feelings towards it. For the Palace fans, I was always in love with the Palace fans. And I think for them to win an FA Cup would be remarkable. I think it would be wonderful. I think they deserve it. I think they're a brilliant fan base. There's always this segment of fan bases that go, why does it always happen to us? Nothing always happens to you. It's the same everywhere around the country. Every football club has good and bad moments. But on the whole, they've been brilliant, brilliant fans. And, when you see Palace fans at Selhurst Park, they remark about the atmosphere. I always loved the travelling fans because I thought they were such wonderful fans. So for the fans of the club, of which there's lots, around the world, everywhere I went, in the far-flung corners of the earth, you'd go to some remote bar in the back end of Nowheresville, and someone would pop up as a Palace fan. I always used to think, can't you get in a bleeding stadium? But I would be delighted for them.
Yeah. I'm going to call you on Saturday night if Palace win it.
I'd be thrilled. I'd be thrilled.
I want to know how you are on Saturday
But
night.
what I won't do, and what I didn't do, and what I wasn't going to be drawn into doing, I wasn't going to do it for the Times, who asked me to do it, and I wasn't going to do it for the Mail, which is write some sentimental, cloying article about my feelings about Crystal Palace in the FA Cup, because it's not how I feel. Go and win the FA Cup. I'll be pleased for you. I'll be delighted for the fans.
Yeah, it would be brilliant, wouldn't it? Yeah, one of football's top business stories coming your way now with Tesco Mobile for Business. And it centres on the Europa League final next week in Bilbao. And of course, we know that whoever wins it, either Tottenham Hotspur or Manchester United, the winner gets Champions League football next season. Now then, it's really an argument to suggest that just might be a double-edged sword for Ruben Amorim at Manchester United. So Amorim, in the build-up to this huge game, was asked whether it would really be better if United didn't qualify for the Champions League. This was his response.
We need more time with the team. We need to arrange a lot of things in Carrington that we need more time to not thinking game by game by game by game. And then you have the squad. We proved this year that we need to be a better squad if we want to win European games, and then to be really competitive during the Premier League. This is going to be tough. So my feeling is that it's going to be really bad. I don't want to use that as an excuse. It's going to be really tough. And the patience of the fans and you guys, if we don't win it, next year is going to be in the limit, and we have to be perfect to continue everything. I know that. So it's not going to be... It's not better in that way.
It would actually, in other ways, increase the pressure on you.
Yeah, for sure. If we don't win it, that is clear. But I'm not concerned about that.
Talks too much.
I mean,
Talks
what
too
do you
much.
say? Talks too much.
Talks too much. Yeah.
Talks too much.
I mean,
I mean, he's so negative there.
Well, he's building in insulations. If I read what he's saying rightly, that next year he'll be under lots of pressure and expectation. No one would expect them to win the Champions League next year. No one would expect them to go deep in it. He has the luxury of a low expectation. So this is like the Labour government at the beginning of their tenure telling everyone that the economy was so bad and so dreadful, and no one can work out the logic of that, because if you want something to be better, you talk it up. You don't talk it down. You build confidence. But he seems to be steering into an idea, and I don't know whether I don't know what the brief was for him. I don't know whether the Man United hierarchy is sitting there allowing him to fill the vacuum in any way he sees fit, because he seems to spend on, and I've never seen a Man United manager seeming to be making so many quotes, so many observations, giving the media so much content, and they all have a responsibility to do a lot of media, but there seems to be a daily staple diet of something that seems to be not really about building Manchester United up. We all would like the luxury of time, and the suggestion that not being in the Champions League next year is a good thing because they need more time is just preposterous for a side of Man United's stature, class, and potential expenditure. And I don't know if I don't know what the briefing is. I don't know whether he's gone rogue, whether there is a change of direction. I'm assuming they're allowing him to say this. I'm assuming they must be comfortable with him saying it. I'm not sure I would be comfortable with what he's saying. I'm not sure that I'd want him to start writing checks that he knows he can't cash yet, but I'd want him to get the balance right, because all I hear from this fellow is one thing after another about the expectation. He's talking to the gallery, which is the fans would expect. No, the fans are realistic. If you don't know that now, you've got more realism amongst these Man United fans than you've probably had in 2 generations in terms of the last 30 or 40 years. Yeah. Because they're so beat downtrodden and beaten up by the reality of what Man United has become, that no one expects them in Man United to win the Champions League. What they want their team to be, Man United, at this moment in time, and he's in a very luxurious position, they want them to be competitive. Who would have ever thought that during the Premier League era that the conversation would have moved now towards Man United being competitive? Yeah. Now, that's where they are. And so now, for him to make it even worse than that, to suggest that these expectations are going to put him under pressure, you are managing Manchester United you should be under pressure. And you should also be making a better fist of it than you currently are. And so with all that in mind, I don't know what to make of him, because I think that some of the things that he says, people are portraying it as a breath of fresh air. They think it's authentic. I don't think it's authentic at all. I think
he's not coming from a strong standpoint either, Simon. When you say the brief at the moment is to make Manchester United competitive, well, he's failed there. They've lost 17 and 36 in the Premier League. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, does this not smack of a guy who's already been told, even if you win the Champions League, you ain't getting much of the money next season?
Europa League. No, I don't believe that to be the case.
Even if you win the Europa League and get Champions League money, you ain't getting much of it. You're not going to see much of it.
But we heard yesterday,
he's getting his excuses in early.
But we heard Alex Crook yesterday. I mean, insofar as we know the details of these things and they're not part of the rumour mill, rather than the informed part of it, that there was going to be a lot of money spent at Man United, despite the protestations of they've got to rebalance their squad. They've got a lot of things they've got to get rid of. They've got to get rid of Rashford probably. They've got to get rid of Sancho probably. They've got to get rid of probably Rasmus Højlund. They've got to get rid of Casemiro. They've got to shake it up. And they've got to get these off the wage bill, as well as trying to get some dough in for them. But there's no shortage of cash. There might be some challenges around PSR, but let's not be silly. There's no shortages of cash there. If Jim Ratcliffe and or the Glazers want to pony up some money on whatever terms they pony it up on, whether it's a loan to the football club or not, there's plenty of working cash around if they want it.
Yeah.
Now, this guy has got to be judged by next season. It's always been the case. I said for the last 2 or 3 months, for what my opinion's worth, that there's no parallel universe that he's going to be sacked. We've been sort of saying he's going to get sacked in the summer. And I think, again, Alex came on yesterday and said Man United will not be sacking Ruben Amorim during the summer, whether they lose the Europa League or not. Now, maybe that's right, maybe it's wrong. I think it's right. I think that he'll be given some time to build a side. I think he'll be given sufficient amount of resources during the summer to remodel it into his own look and feel. But I do think if I were his immediate superiors, I'd want to pack some of this nonsense in. I know you've got to fill the vacuum. I know that ultimately you're filling the vacuum with content, and given the fact that it's not your first language, you're going to find sometimes some faux pas and some tripping over one's tongue. But I think that some of the things that he's coming out with are just silly and not representative of the situation, and trying to create an outcome that I cannot work out what the benefit is. What the benefit is.
In the time we've got left in this one, though, I mean, we know that he's stepped in. He's going to be paying for 30 of the United staff and their families to go to the final. And briefly, he spoke about that and why it was the right thing to do.
The situation is simple. You know that we had a lot of things, people leaving, a lot of changing in the staff, and in this moment for our club, sometimes it's hard to understand when to give, when to take, to respect the people that we are taking their jobs in certain moments to survive and to rebuild, and then it's hard and it's complicated for the club to start giving to other members of staff. So it's a really hard position. Then that situation was explained. And in that moment, my reaction was to help, because it's not going to. I'm not a good guy. It's not going to change my life, and to help to the staff to be there, comfortable, to be a better staff for the final. Then they talked to the players, and the players had the same reaction. In the same moment, they had the same reaction. So everybody wants the staff there, the families there. But it's hard to manage things in our club, so it's a simple thing.
It seems to me he's saying that we can't be seen to be making people redundant at this football club, and certain numbers of us, myself included, not do anything about it. So I've stepped in and I'm doing something about it.
You can win football matches, and you wouldn't perhaps be making people redundant.
You were shaking your head during that. You're not having any of it.
I just don't know. I just think it's a stupid conversation. I don't know why you're in this conversation. I don't know why people are aware of the fact. People say, well, because if you buy 30 tickets and you give them to people privately, and you say to people, listen, this is from me to you, I don't want it out in the public domain, it's not difficult to control. The fact of the matter is, it's in the public domain. I don't even know why it's a discussion. The fact is that the reasons why Ruben Amorim might be able to buy 30 tickets is because the people have paid his wages, and they paid his wages at such an inflated level that he can afford to throw this money out of his pocket on the way down the road. I just think it's a silly conversation. I don't think it's got anything to do with anything. I don't even know why we're having this conversation about Ruben Amorim buying 30 tickets for Man United in the Cup, because all that we're doing is fulfilling the agenda of the narrative that's being put out there, which is that the way that Man United are operating off the field is inappropriate. And I don't necessarily agree. I think the commercial realities are and of course Radcliffe is a commercial man, and so he will make commercial decisions about wastage and people's expenditure. Maybe you've seen something in that interview that I didn't see. I didn't think he was suggesting that because people have been made redundant, that it was inappropriate for what? For what? You're not giving the tickets to the people that have been made redundant, are you? You're giving it to the tickets to the people that haven't been made redundant.
And funnily enough, on the playing side, as the game gets ever closer, we now know that Kulusevski will not be available for Tottenham. Nor will Maddison, nor will Bergvall.
It's not helpful for Spurs.
It's kind of, is the balance swinging in the direction of Amorim and Manchester United?
Who knows in this game? It's the best of the bad bunch, isn't it? So we've seen that Tottenham and Man United can perform in these moments. We've seen Tottenham historically have choked at big opportunities. FA Cup semi-finals, Champions League finals haven't turned up.
Yeah.
So this is a different time, different space, different opposition. But both of these teams are capable of being absolutely dreadful on the night or excellent. And from that, what do you deduce? There's nothing to separate them in league form. I saw the two teams play in the Cup quarter-final in the Carabao Cup in December at Spurs. United were shocking. Shocking. Spurs beat them 4-1, and the only time they got in the game was when Fraser Forster decided, the goalkeeper, that he wanted to help them as much as he possibly could. Other than that, Man United were absolutely appalling. And Tottenham weren't much better.
Right. We've seen under the Bole Igbale ownership at Chelsea, Thomas Tuchel came and went, Frank came and went, Pochettino came and went, Potter came and went. The numbers go on and on. It seems they have settled upon Enzo Maresca for whatever reason. After 5 managers in 3 years, do you think Maresca, from what you've seen and heard, is the right choice for the Chelsea ownership to stabilise the whole place?
Well, they're not looking for stabilising, are they? They're looking for progress. They're looking to go back to the top of the table and win things. So I think he gave everyone a dose of reality at Christmas, but I think sometimes I don't know whether it's right to undersell, underpromise and overdeliver, or overpromise and underdeliver, which is what his concern was. The expectation of Chelsea was, ooh, you're in this title race and you have an opportunity to win the league. No one sensible really thought that they did, and he could have controlled that narrative a little bit better rather than he'd spent the X amount of weeks talking it down, so that the performance on the field replicated the fact they couldn't. They lost 3 or 4 games on the bounce, or certainly 2 or 3, and then subsequently killed their opportunities to be successful. I think that Chelsea are having a stable season. They've got an embarrassment of riches. They've got really good players, and they've got a group of players that are beginning to come to, they've got young players in there like Caicedo and other players, Lavia when he's fit, and Madueke, that will be really good players in the next seasons coming forward, because they've got the base there. I think he's had a stable season. I think there's been no real controversy. They'll win the European Conference League, and if they don't, they need shooting.
As you say, under the Americans who want to go places, but I think, as I understand it, under the briefing yesterday, it was whether or not we get Champions League football, his job is safe.
But that's their gift to say. Whether that's the right thing to say or whether it's the wrong thing to say. It's perhaps taking the pressure off in the moment, because, you're going to the back end of the season. They would expect to be in the Champions League spots. The Champions League spot go down to 5th place, right? So they'd expect to be in amongst it. Yeah. And they are in amongst it. And so...
They've got a fight in their hands to get it, though.
They have got a fight in their hands, but they've got Man United.
United and Forest, the final day.
So what? Forest is a challenging one. Man United have got got a Europa League Cup to come up, right? So they're going to be, they're playing Man United this weekend, aren't they?
They're playing Friday night,
right? So because it was moved around, it was readjusted. Yeah. Right? So Man United are, what they're going to get. Who knows where we get Man United? I would think Chelsea can beat Man United. I think the blood and thunder will be in Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
And that game, but I think they should qualify for the Champions League. I think he should be judged by those standards. Do I think he should be sacked if he doesn't achieve it? No, but I think it shortens the leash on him if they don't. I think if they don't continue to evolve and to move forward, because it's now 3 seasons, and they will be looking to kick on. I know that the money doesn't burn a hole in their pockets. I know they're not worried about the economics, and everyone else is more worried than they are. But what is the point of owning a Chelsea if a Chelsea isn't at the very top of the pyramid?
I'm not entirely sure what you think of the Europa Conference League.
Certainly a pub league.
You think it's a public? Maresca said no. There is a significance attached to it if we end up winning it. This was him.
Yeah, no. For me, winning a trophy this season, Conference League trophy, is a statement in terms of that. It's a statement, as you said, that you can say Chelsea's back because first of all you win a trophy. Then if Madrid or different clubs they don't play conference, it's because they didn't deserve to play conference. I always try to be, if we play conference, it's because it's where we are in the conference. So we need to start from there. We are playing conference. If you play conference, you cannot win Champions League. If you can play conference, you cannot win Europa League. If you play conference, the only trophy you can win is conference. And we're going to try our best tomorrow to reach the final and then to win the trophy. And as I said, from there, I think it's a good starting point to start to build, winner mentality and win games and trophy.
I kind of get that. It's a starting point.
Well, I'm going to give him some latitude. The English isn't his first language, because other than that, I think it's a lot of a babbling drivel. Anyone with half a brain can understand that if you're in a Conference League, you can't win the Champions League. I mean, you'd have to be.
It creates a winning mentality.
You'd have to be born under a rock. No, what he's saying is that if you're in a competition, then you do the best you can in it. If you're Chelsea with all the resources you've got against the teams that you're playing against, and you don't win it, then you should be slightly embarrassed in the same way that Tottenham should have been embarrassed a few years ago in the manner in which they turned up into it. Chelsea go into this competition and
got a job in their hands to win it.
What?
Betis.
Okay, we'll see.
Q Anthony.
We'll see. Oh yeah. He was terrifying at Man United, wasn't he?
No, I know, but he's been good at.
Yeah, they all have their 5 minutes, don't they? Rashford went off to Aston Villa, had his 5 minutes.
Is he right? Are Chelsea back if they win this thing?
No, of course they're not. They're not back on the league stage. And
even though it's the first trophy of the Clear Lake Todd Bully era.
The clue is in the title, the word conference. When you think of conference, what do you think of? I think of non-league football. I don't think of the highfalutin side of football. It is the third tier of English football, third tier competition in European football, that it sucks as far down the pyramid as it possibly can inside the Premier League to get teams in that have got some validity.
Would you say it's a public if Palace were in the final?
But Palace aren't Chelsea. And I would still say the same thing. That it's a
Would you call it a public tournament when West Ham won it?
Yes, I did.
Or did you?
I said precisely that.
Did he?
Yes, I did.
We'll look at that.
You will. You'll be able
we can do these things.
And I've had that conversation repeatedly with Martin O'Neill in the studio, who takes a slightly sniffy attitude towards it as well, which is that he would do because he won the European Cup. So he thinks of the European Cup as the benchmark. It is another tournament. I mean, come on. Do we really need 3 competitions in Europe? Do we really need 50% of the Premier League competing in European football and then whining about the fact that it means they haven't got a squad they can rotate?
There's Robin Colchester. Simon, don't be so dismissive of the Conference League. You would take Crystal Palace winning it all the time if they were in it.
But we're not talking about Crystal Palace, we're talking about Chelsea.
Oh, I see.
And who cares about Colchester anyway? That's a competition that you're never going to play in, so keep to your own lane. The fact of the matter is that we're talking about Chelsea. We're talking about Chelsea. And the idea of the Conference League being something meaningful, I don't think there needs to be 3 competitions in Europe. I think you have the Champions League, which is laughable in and of itself, because that's not made up of champions. It's been turned into a commercial outcome. It's a participation competition. Most teams are happy to be there because they know they're going to get 35 million quid for being there. And look at the bottom of that competition. Young boys finishing with no points.
But you know, the Conference League final is the beginning of something for Chelsea. I get what Maresca's saying. It would mark the beginning of something. If they don't win it, it's an embarrassment.
Yeah,
but if they do win it,
it's a poison challenge.
Yeah,
actually, because if you don't win it, then you're embarrassed. If you do win it, you're expected to win it. Well, then win it, and it's like people say if you've got a number one, if you've got a single that goes into the charts, you might as well be top of the charts, mightn't you? If you're in the Conference League, if you're playing in the Euro Conference League, I mean, look at the teams they've played in it. I mean, look at the teams they've played.
Oh, I mean, Dewgarden in the semi-final is ridiculous, really. I kind of agree with you on that, but having said that, it was enjoyable when West Ham won it, and the scenes were great thereafter. David Sullivan spoke to us about it.
Yeah.
How enjoyable this will be for Chelsea fans, I don't know. It remains to be seen, but Maresca, I think, is right. Yeah, it would be the beginning of something.
Well, he's certainly right.
So don't dare lose it.
He's certainly right. If you play in the Conference League, you're not playing the Champions League. And he's certainly right if you play in the Conference League, you're not playing the Europa League. So these are massive insights that we all feel the benefit of.
And Simon, will you watch the Europa Conference League final?
No.
How did I think that would be your answer? Well done to Leyton Orient, who reached the League One playoff final via a penalty shootout win over Stockport. And of course that comes, Simon, after the controversy over Orient's 2 goals in the first leg, which were scored And of course, VAR was not present on those nights. But anyway, Leyton Orient have made it, and they will meet the winners of Charlton or Wycombe at Wembley. But I mean, I watched the end of it. I got in last night to watch the penalty shootout and whatnot. Now,
Anybody but Charlton for me.
It was up at Stockport. Well, I'd be happy if Charlton did it.
Good for you.
They're all right. The fans were good. At the height of the Roland Duchâtelet nonsense, the fans were coming to me in numbers saying, ask Duchâtelet this, ask Duchâtelet that. So I did. And I went to Brussels and Belgium and did that.
I remember that time, and to my eternal disappointment, I gained some currency amongst Charlton fans.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Because I was challenging Duchâtelet's nonsense. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
I don't like Charlton, and Charlton fans don't like me. So there's nothing wrong with it. It just happens to be a mutual distaste, I suspect.
Is it time the UK goes back in for a men's World Cup? I don't know what you're taking on this is, Simon. The United Kingdom has been urged to bid to host the men's World Cup by FIFA President Victor Montagliani. What a wonderful name. The Vice President, Victor Montagliani. Montagliani is saying, I cannot see why not just England, but the United Kingdom shouldn't be hosting the World Cup. I think it would be a fantastic World Cup, and I think they should seriously think of putting their foot forward to host it. We all know what the game means in the UK, and I think it's time. Is it time the UK goes back in for a men's World Cup, Simon?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, the economic shock of these tournaments, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, it's one of the few times in my life where I imagine that I'll find some accord with that ghastly mayor, Sadiq Khan, because I think he's in the same position. I think he believes that we should be hosting major tournaments and that the infrastructure is there.
Yeah, good
the
morning,
stadiums, the stadiums are built, the structures are there. And I absolutely think that if economically, because obviously someone's got to pay for these things and someone's got to put in various financial contributions to be able to achieve the outcome that FIFA wanted. Let's be clear. FIFA wants revenue. They want revenue from these tournaments. And the reasons why the 2026 World Cup landed where it did is because Trump in his first stint promised FIFA $15 billion worth of revenue. And so FIFA jumped all over that and gave it to Mexico and Canada and the US. We've had previous false starts. We had a badly run campaign in 2010, 2011 for one of the World Cups that we had the illusion that we were going to win, and then we had Tresman running around bad-mouthing various people and then expecting to get an outcome in our favour.
Well, that's right.
And obviously there was a lot of fanfare about Beckham and Sebastian Coe and David Dean's involvement, and then they found out that they've got a handful of nothing in that situation. Should we be wanting to have a World Cup? Yeah. Is there the consequence of having a World Cup and not winning it something that we should be mindful? No, of course not. Of course not. We have arguably the healthiest football pyramid in world football. We have one of the best infrastructures. It's a national game. It's the domestic powerhouse. I mean, of course, we want to commit our acts of self-harm. We want to self-flagellate and make sure that we're the only footballing nation in the world that introduces an independent regulator to govern its own affairs, even though it's an resounding success in most of its instances. But I've always been, I think the Euro Championships in '96 were brilliant. I think they were brilliant in every aspect.
Yeah.
And I would really be very keen to see a World Cup in this country. I think it would be fantastic.
I mean, there is an argument maybe that a World Cup potentially and a World Cup finals has become bigger than the UK as hosts. I mean, when you look at it next summer, it's all over the place. It's in the USA, Canada and Mexico, but it will be spectacular. Of that, there is no doubt. FIFA awarded the 2030 World Cup to Spain, Portugal and Morocco, plus 3 matches in South America. 2034 is heading to Saudi Arabia with the promises of a stadium in the sky. Mm-hmm. I mean, do you want to follow that? What's the UK going to throw in that might match that? Or even, I mean, we talk these days about Old Trafford and a leaky roof.
Well, yeah, and we also talk about the wonderful other stadiums that we've got. By that time, you'll have had probably an Old Trafford being rebuilt, or a new one, a New Trafford. You've got a litany of new stadiums. You've got Tottenham Hotspur that have built arguably the greatest stadium in domestic sport around the globe currently. You've got Wembley Stadium, which is universally accepted as one of the most iconic environments, despite the fact that we want to pull down that idea that we should be moving it around the country, because there's always this argument about what you haven't got somewhere else is a disadvantage. Whereas the fact of the matter is, the reasons why football in this country is heralded and revered so much is because of environments like Wembley, which is why it was a preposterous, despicable idea to sell Wembley to Shad Khan for a discount, because we couldn't run our FA properly for a period of time when the pandemic kicked in.
Yeah.
So I think all of these things, it's like watching the evolution of Wimbledon. Wimbledon hasn't changed. Tennis has evolved. Tennis has become a much bigger sport and a much more viewed sport, but Wimbledon is still considered to be the marquee event as far as tennis is concerned. So with the World Cup, which has been hijacked by FIFA, it used to be the Jules Rimet Trophy, it's now the FIFA World Cup, hijacked by them. But as far as the ability to be able to put on a tournament, we know.
We could follow the Saudis, a stadium in the sky.
Yeah, but they've got no... But that's a stadium.
This newly created magical city.
They've got no heartbeat of this sport right now, and maybe they will have in 8 years' time. And they're trying their very level best to use sport as an opportunity to lever things from their society to give them advantages, and sport's being utilised for that. But if you look at the heartbeat of sport, really, and certainly football, it is the Europeans and the South Americans. And so at the centre of the European sporting prism is the UK.
Is it?
Is it not?
The European. I mean, a home World Cup, would it not be good for the economy but damaging for the English soul? I mean, if you don't bring football home,
depends what kind of tournament
when it's on your doorstep, it's going to be a letdown.
Well, again, I make the argument it is the heart of the European sport, because you've got Spain being given. I mean, there's arguments for Germany and Spain, but they've had World Cups recently, and they've had European Championships, and Spain are having the one in 2030. So, of course, it's a reasonable, valid argument that the next time it comes back into the European position, that the domestic opportunities that the UK brings, this Premier League is not going to get weaker. It's not going to get financially less.
It's a Premier League that's, the clubs are mostly owned by Americans. That's the direction we're going in.
But that's always been the case. Whether it's mostly owned by Americans, most of the football pyramid in this country has an involvement from overseas investment. Unfortunately, that's the tragedy of this country. It doesn't invest enough in its own product. But I don't think also that you should start with a half-empty cup. I mean, if you were suggesting we host the World Cup in Scotland, then I could understand your argument.
Oh, thank you.
But the fact of the matter is that we are a major leading sport.
It's part of it. I mean, this guy's going on about the UK. So you've got sure, you've got a stadium infrastructure that's all right, but it ain't going to match. I would think it's not going to match what we're going to see in the US, Canada, and Mexico next summer.
Why's that then?
And it certainly wouldn't match a stadium in the sky in 2034. What will we come up with, apart from these stadiums around the country that are the homes of clubs that you say quite rightly, like Liverpool, Newcastle, elsewhere, Tottenham. These are iconic, right?
These are iconic stadiums that resonate around the world.
In England.
That resonate around the world. Why are Manchester United argued, even in their most period of decline, to be still one of the biggest clubs in the world? Why have Liverpool got audiences around the world? Manchester City, now the same. Arsenal, the same. These are iconic, world-renowned football clubs seeded in a country that ultimately, in conjunction with Scotland, gave the world the game, has the most powerful domestic league, has the most revenue being generated, and we're going to compete with a different alternative, which is the Middle East, trying to establish certain aspects of its society and culture through sport. Doesn't have the heritage, doesn't have the legacy, doesn't have the feeling that the uniqueness of European and South American football brings, but we'll add something different.
All right.
The Qatar World Cup added something different. It wasn't better or worse, it was different. It provided a different outlook, I think the 1982 World Cup in Spain was phenomenal.
Oh, it was. Phenomenal. So, okay, we're in for it. You fancy it. We'll take the FIFA Vice President, Victor Montagliani, up in his offer. Bid for it, and we'll see where it goes.
But, I mean, I don't know why he's speaking to it. I mean, it's what he says. I don't know how much influence or authority he has, and why. I don't know the nuance.
Well,
or the
he
context.
runs football in North and Central America.
So why is he advocating
and the
for
Caribbean?
Well, then fine. So why doesn't he?
He was asked about the UK.
Yeah.
Should they bid again? He says, yeah.
Well, he's not going to say no, is he?
He says, go over the shenanigans around voting in the past. And get on with your bidding.
If you're asked, if he's asked as a politician, which is in part his role, should the UK bid for it? He's not going to say no, is he? Because first of all, he's going to want the competitive tension of people being able to bid that creates an outcome. Because if there's only one person bidding for a World Cup, you're only going to get one outcome,
right?
Which is what they're prepared to give you as a result of their idea that they want the World Cup. So of course, I wouldn't take much notice of what he's saying. But the question is, should we have a World Cup? Absolutely. Why shouldn't we? The question is not why should we? Why shouldn't we?
Why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we? I'm with you on that.
60 years. 60 years.
I know. I don't know if I'll be around to see it.